Micah Share, this came out of Riverside County Sheriff's Department in pursuit of this gray Toyota truck you see here. What we understand is this may be a murder suspect that they're trying to catch up to and apprehend right now. This driver driving extremely erratically here on these surface streets. You can see him just cutting through traffic here, coming up on this intersection. Gary at Holt, now going eastbound on Holt. You see Riverside County Sheriff right behind. Now, a majority of this pursuit has been on surface streets, so on freeways. I'm sorry. So we've seen the Sheriff's Department actually hold on to this pursuit through multiple counties. We hear that this could have possibly went as far south as San Diego County and has made its way actually into LA County as well. Right now in the San Bernardino County area, but Riverside County Sheriff's is maintaining the pursuit right now. They have not asked for any other agencies to take over. They have asked for some assistance from some of those agencies to help with spike strips as well as aerial resources. However, those sheriffs from Riverside are sticking with the pursuit. There's about 5-6 sheriff's units behind this truck right now, wanted for murder. So quite a big charge on this possible suspect. So that could explain the large number of units behind, but very erratic driving now that we're here on the surface streets in the Pomona area. Still on Holtz, going eastbound through about Mountain View right now. And just this driving is extremely erratic. When we saw him on the freeway earlier, going about 80, 90 miles an hour, but holding those speeds, very little traffic. Then when it came up on traffic, we saw him jumping in and out of the shoulders, the emergency lanes to try to avoid the police and avoid that traffic. And now that we're on this surface streets, just kind of rocking his way through these neighborhoods here over these speed bumps, very high rates of speed for a neighborhood about 35, 40 miles an hour, just missing that car there that didn't have a stop sign, but this truck just rolling through the intersection. I'm going to pull out to a little bit wider of a shot, and you can just see the number of units behind this suspect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the least, and now we're back on to Holt, I believe, and it looks like we're stopping. We'll see what happens here. Different move there. For the most part, throughout this pursuit, the suspect's been trying to stay as far away from those officers as possible, or those deputies as possible. Right now, it looks like we're having a little different of a tactic, kind of slowing down as we're here on Holt going southbound towards Washington. You can see some of the other units in the area holding traffic just due to the dangerous nature of this driver right now, but things really slowing down and changing as we're here on Holt going here in Pomona. Wow, wrong way. Wrong way in the traffic. Oh, wow, and a van trying to get involved. Wow, that just caused an accident there. Now we're on Holtz going more to the east again. Speeds up to about 70 miles an hour now. I did get a that passenger side window, and it does look like there is a passenger in there, possibly a female. So now we have possible 2 suspects in the vehicle. So unsure of their relation or if that passenger wants to be involved. But just running through these lights here, causing accidents as when it's a wrong way on Holtz there, just a few miles back. But it's very erratic driving here by this suspect here. Like you were saying, Mike, sheriff's department not wanting to give up on this pursuit. However, they have asked for assistance from the CHP. The CHP won't take over a pursuit just because it's on their freeways. They will wait for an agency to say, hey, we're going to hand it over to you and we're going to back out. But the sheriff's department from Riverside has not decided to do that. But they are getting assistance from the CHP overhead, as well as LA County has one of their helicopters overhead as well. And you can be certain that the Pomona police departments out here are here and in the area, know this is here, so that if it does come to an end, they can assist, or they can possibly assist with things like spike strips, things like that. But very high rates of speed, 90 miles an hour or so here as we continue on Indian Hill Boulevard through about Hoover. Very, very dangerous situation for these drivers down here on this surface street. They're not expecting this type of speed, and especially in that center divider, like that wrong way of traffic there, just blowing through that center median. You can see that dust flying up as the car continues through another red light there, and this is just getting very, very dangerous for all these drivers out here. They're just trying to get home. Earlier, as we saw the suspect circling that neighborhood, oh wow, just weaving through those cars there, and continuing north through another red. Now we're up at about the 10 freeway. We'll see what happens here. Still continuing northbound. And we saw actual people out on the street, so probably watching the different streams and things like that out on the street again, seeing a view from for themselves. Very dangerous situation, especially with the erratic nature of this driver. Now we're westbound San Jose from Indian Hill up to about 70 miles an hour again, and just very, very dangerous speeds. And what can the sheriff's department do in these situations? Definitely a spike strip is an option, but that's a little tough with the erratic movement now that we're out of that neighborhood that the suspect was kind of circling. But there's also the option for a pit maneuver. Wow, just jumping through that dip there, you see that those are very dangerous situations as the truck can lose control, especially with its higher stance. The center of gravity is different than those lower cars, that's for sure. So pit maneuver is also an option, but this truck's getting to that size where that can be a little tough just due to the size of the units on the ground compared to this truck. They have to have a certain amount of momentum and force, and sometimes that can be tough, but still going about 60 miles an hour here on Laverne in the Pomona area. We'll see what happens here, making that hard right turn into that turn lane, and northbound on San Antonio now. And so very, very erratic driving. The sheriff's department is a little bit behind, as their main priority is keeping the public safe, and they don't want to get in any accidents or cause any trouble. But you can see that sheriff's airship, that A-Star overhead, calling out the pursuit to those officers and those deputies on the ground so that they know where the suspect is at all times. They are also dispatching traffic conditions so that those deputies and officers are aware of that, and they can avoid any potential accidents. And when we start talking about the end of a pursuit, that air unit becomes an exceptional tool in tracking down a suspect. Say they decide to run away on foot, or hunker down or something like that. That aerial view becomes a great asset, just as it is here in Sky 5 for us to follow this for you guys. But still going about 75 miles an hour here on town now, still in the area of Pomona, and just jumping through these intersections, coming up some traffic now. We'll see what happens here. Probably going to hug that right shoulder, and nope, just going to weave through into that fast lane there, into that center median, and we'll see what happens. Just very erratic driving, very scary for these drivers here on the ground, running that red light there as well. And now we're getting into some more neighborhoods here, and so people here 6:30 are getting home from work, getting home from the grocery store for the evening, not expecting a very high rate truck coming through their area, or even coming up on the rear of them as they just try to get home. Speed limits in this area are nowhere near 60 miles an hour, that's for sure. And so we continue. These are the speeds we were seeing on the freeways and that traffic, the suspect jumping through lanes, hugging the shoulders, things like that. So nothing's changed in that sense. We went from that kind of slow weaving through the residential streets now back to more major surface streets at those higher rates. Coming up on another intersection here, using that turn lane to push our way through Foothill Boulevard, still on Town, and soon enough, probably in about 2 miles, we're going to be coming up on the 210 freeway, and then the hills of the Angeles Forest. So the suspect's going to have to make a decision there if they're going to go east or west, or if they're going to turn around and go back into Pomona proper. But it looks like we're going to be turning left onto Briar Croft here from Town, and I'm just going to pull out to a little wider of a shot, and we don't see any of those ground units behind this anymore. So maybe they're trying to use another tactic now, try to slow down and let this suspect not have that presence of the police behind it. Maybe they'll slow down, pull over, and then they can apprehend the suspect after that. But it doesn't seem like that's going to pull this suspect from driving erratically. Now, making its way through this intersection, a pedestrian in that intersection, luckily they made their way onto that sidewalk safely. But now southbound Sumner from Fort Lewis Road, this is just becoming more and more dangerous, as now we're seeing 40, 45 mile an hour speeds in a residential neighborhood here on this Tuesday evening. Okay. Micah, that's right. We saw in that passenger side window just a few minutes ago on one of the turns, and it looks like there possibly could be a female passenger inside this gray Toyota truck you see here that is wanted for possible relation to a murder out of Riverside County. What we understand is this pursuit may have started in the Moreno Valley area and made its way as far south as San Diego County and as far west now as Diamond Bar in LA County, and now we're tracking it in the Laverne, Pomona area, now making its way into Laverne. A majority of our time during the 6 o'clock hour has been in the Pomona area. Now southbound Town Center Drive from Foothill Boulevard, still going about 40 miles an hour. Very dangerous situation as we are in a more looks like residential and mixed commercial area, but Riverside County Sheriffs looks like they have backed off on the ground. However, they do have multiple air units overhead from LA County, from CHP, as well as Riverside County, all monitoring this pursuit. There are a lot of officers and deputies looking for the suspects, or the suspects, plural possibly, right now. As we look through that front windshield, you can kind of see that passenger in white there, driver in what looks to be possibly orange or a red t-shirt, but making our way very swiftly in that center median now, southbound on White right now, about 70 miles an hour here. Bikes being passed right now in a very dangerous situation here as we get into the evening hours, as people just try to get home. They're not expecting this level of speed as we make our way through a neighborhood, and now it looks like we're slowing down a little bit, going to be going down an alley, and this is going to be just through the backs of some houses. And we saw this a few minutes ago, that this suspect was kind of using these alleys to try to possibly get away from those ground units, but we haven't seen a ground unit in quite some time. I'll pull out to a little bit wider. It looks like we do have, you can see that almost that gray SUV, that truck there, that is a Sheriff's Department truck that is here and a part of the pursuit. It took over for a marked Riverside County SUV that was the primary in this pursuit, but a lot of sheriff's deputies are involved in this pursuit right now. Earlier we counted about 6 or 7 vehicles behind this truck wanted for murder, and you can just imagine there must be some reason that so many deputies are following a suspect, and murder is definitely one of those wants that would require extra deputies to be involved, just due to the dangerous possible nature of the suspect. Now we are southbound on E as in Edward Street from a valley. Here in Laverne, still now going back to the east in another alley, and it looks like the suspect is kind of just trying to weave his way through this neighborhood, possibly lose the ground units that way, but the thing is they have those air units overhead, and those air units can see everything, and very, very rarely will lose a suspect vehicle from the air. And so there's multiple of those, and those become crucial in calling out this pursuit for those ground units as they get a little farther behind. A lot of that for safety purposes. They don't want to drive at excessive speeds or do anything dangerous like the suspect might be, because they want to keep the public safe, and sometimes that means backing off and letting the air unit do that handle. But you just see the suspect pulling out in front of that white sedan there, now going to the north here on White once again at about 2nd Street. Sheriff's truck you see there turning around to re-engage with this pursuit, but just circling this area of Laverne right now. Very dangerous situations, and we just are waiting to see. You just saw that right there. The suspect kind of made a wide turn, and that's a little odd for this suspect. The suspect's been driving very technically, and that was kind of a new thing. So maybe the suspect's losing some sort of control of the vehicle. When vehicles are going at high rates of speed like this, especially on and off of the brakes, jumping through intersections like that, it looks like we just lost a wheel or a tire. We saw that something break there through that dip there. These vehicles aren't made for that, and you can lose brakes, you can lose calipers, you can lose all sorts of things, even wheels as that happens. But it looks like we still have both those tires and wheels on that driver's side, and the suspect's still going at extremely high rates of speed, about 30 miles an hour in this neighborhood. Coming up on another dip, we'll see what happens here. A little slower through that, so that last one kind of maybe shook the driver up there. But the options in ending this pursuit come down to just a few right now. Is following it to its end, possibly a spike strip if they can start to identify a trend. Wow, just almost looked like they were trying to go through that street, but wasn't going to make the turn, so continuing straight. And now we're going to be making that right-hand turn onto this more major here through this neighborhood, weaving through this traffic, coming up on that SUV that pulled over to the side. Very, very dangerous driving through this neighborhood, a neighborhood that does have pedestrians out, you see just like right there, and they are not expecting this racing through their neighborhood. Or undercover vehicle from the Riverside County Sheriff's Agency here involved in this pursuit. And this suspect is, as we can tell, not looking like they're going to be giving up by any means anytime soon. But Pomona police now taking over that primary lead, and that's a good thing for this area. Now the sheriffs do a great job, and they're great at their pursuits, but this is a little bit out of their territory. And bringing in a primary unit from an agency that the pursuit is actually in is a great strategy for those sheriffs, as that unit knows the area, that unit knows the streets, that unit knows wherever this pursuit ends, all the hiding spots, the places that the suspects can go if they run. So it's a great option for them to bring in that extra help from an agency in the area to assist with this pursuit. Now coming, we're still on town, coming up on Claremont, westbound on, at Laverne from town, and you see another unit there from the area. And what they're doing, it's known in the industry as Code 100, but essentially what it means is they have a unit stage in the area just in case the pursuit comes to an end, but they also assist with traffic control. Now this vehicle is going at very high rates of speed on surface streets, and cars, like we were talking about, not ready for things like this, going wrong way, cutting off vehicles. You see that truck almost lost control and went into the light pole, and so they position police units at intersections to stop traffic when this pursuit is approaching, so that those drivers can stay as safe as possible in their non-moving vehicle as this pursuit passes. So is that what we saw earlier? And we just saw why it's so needed as it went through that other controlled intersection with that truck almost going into that light pole. But still about 70 miles an hour here on Orange Grove, coming up on Meadow. Here in the Pomona area, we've made our way from Laverne back to Pomona, and we'll see what happens here as we come up back on Arrow Highway. We've been here before. Eastbound Arrow from Orange Grove, and still going about 65 miles an hour now, but very, very dangerous situations. And the thing we don't talk about right now very often is those dispatchers, and you see people out on the street corner, very dangerous, but those dispatchers are back there at the different agencies, coordinating between those agencies, finding as much info on the suspect as they can. Are they familiar with this area? Is this where they come from? There's all sorts of things that those dispatchers are doing, and they're very, very helpful in this situation where you're seeing interagency communication and assistance now into a parking lot. This parking lot almost looks like it doesn't have a back end, but it did. I'm sorry, I just didn't notice. But you see that sheriff's truck there. Ready to take over the pursuit, but that Pomona unit still primary, jumping back in, but they have officers and deputies all over the area here. Now, wrong way here on town, coming up on Indigo, almost jumping down that railroad track there, almost looking like they were trying to run the vehicles off the road, but the officers and the deputies won't go wrong side of the road because that's just putting the public in too much danger, but they'll try to follow as best they can now and all the way over to the right shoulder into that turn pocket, still wrong ways. Luckily, the traffic is stopped there for that light, but now that we're coming up into more free streets, we're going to see more vehicles, and here, hard on the brakes through this intersection, behind all that traffic, still wrong way. Cars luckily slowing down, knowing this is in the area, so pulling off to the side of the road, but a very, very dangerous situation for all these drivers down here in Pomona as we go on to this pursuit, going for more than an hour now here in the east, the west end of San Bernardino, Riverside County, as well as the east part of LA County now. Multiple agencies involved, still wrong way, and all we're hoping right now is the suspect gets right on the correct side of the road to put the public back into a more safer terms, but it doesn't look like we're doing that, and now we are here now going to the west on Foothill, it looks like, from town. Right side of the road. Now the agencies can jump back into the pursuit and get back close. You can see the Pomona police unit there back on the tail of the suspect saying, hey, we're not going anywhere. You're in our area, and we're going to follow you until you pull over, or those sheriff's units are going to take over now. But a very, very dangerous pursuit here now, going on over an hour here in the area of Pomona, Micah. Onto the sidewalk, very, very dangerous. U-turn. Well, with that murder charge or that want, there is that possibility. Now, really high rates of speed, up to about 95 miles an hour, wrong way in that center median now here, southbound on Gary from Live Oak. And you saw that U-turn there. Perfect opportunity for the officers to possibly box in the suspect, especially at those low rates of speed, but they chose not to. And that could possibly be, Micah, for that purpose of believing that the suspect may be armed. They don't want to put themselves into a situation that possibly they are in danger of being shot at, so they're going to use different tactics to in this pursuit now. As we saw, they had the opportunity to maybe box in the suspect, but that was not a tactic that they used. Still going about 75 miles an hour southbound Gary, coming up on Drake Street, and we saw that there is a passenger in the vehicle, windows rolled down. That passenger, the moment we saw them, didn't look very stressed, hands in their lap, so unsure of their involvement in this incident, but they're along for this ride in this pursuit, that's for sure. Up to about 60 miles an hour southbound through Gary, through Harrison, and the Pomona Police Department still behind. And right now, it's kind of a matter of when will this end? When will the suspect run out of gas? We don't know the state of that tank when this pursuit started. What we understand, Michael, like you said, starting around 5 o'clock, so up to an hour and 45 minutes at possibly extremely high rates of speed, very erratic driving. That's very, very dangerous, and hard on an engine, and it consumes more fuel. That's for sure. So we might be seeing that come to a possible ending point as well. But right now you see Pomona Police Department K-9 unit now lead in this pursuit with the Sheriff's Department not far behind. 4 police units plus those Sheriff's units still in this pursuit. and you can start to see the public out there on the street corners, videotaping this, standing out watching it. That's just very, very dangerous, especially with this erratic driving of this suspect, because we've seen it almost run off the road. We've seen it on sidewalks. We've seen it on wrong side of the road, and that's just putting those people in danger, choosing to be out there on that corner, documenting it. A lot safer to be inside. Lock your doors, lock your windows, lock your cars, and watch it on KTLA instead, because you don't know how this is going to end, and then what happens when it does end. Are these suspects going to try to run into a home or into a car that's stopped there watching, into a business? And so the best option is to be inside and locking their doors. Slowing down now to about 13 miles an hour. This is a little out of character for this suspect. We've seen a lot higher speeds for a majority of the chase, but another one of those moments, Micah, that we saw early in the 6 o'clock hour, where the suspect goes from those really high rates of speed, slowing down, possibly seeing maybe how many officers are behind him, maybe what the tactics they're going to use if the suspect slows down. We don't know what's going through the suspect's head right now, what decisions they're making inside that vehicle, but you can see that Pomona police right on their tail. I'm going to pull out to a little bit wider of a shot. Police officers everywhere, sheriffs everywhere. You see all those sheriffs behind, probably about 10 plus sheriff's units alone here involved in this pursuit. So this suspect seems to be very wanted by the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, wanted for murder, one of the higher charges that we understand. But this suspect is racking up the charges as well as this pursuit continues. Every time the suspect goes wrong side of the road, does any sort of traffic infraction, those are tallied, those are marked, and those are brought up in court as well when this pursuit does come to an end and the suspect is taken into custody. But right now, still about 30 miles an hour here on Gary. Making our way southbound, we're going to be coming up on the freeway here as well. This will be the 10 probably coming up here, and we're just making our way now slowly through Pomona, which is very different than how we saw the suspect on Gary going northbound just moments ago. That's right, Micah. We see that, and it's actually something they talk about in training for pursuits. But officers, especially that primary unit, you see that canine unit there, fairly fresh to this pursuit. However, these pursuits can be very taxing on those officers that are involved in the pursuit. And what can happen is those officers can get tunnel vision, or also known as a bumper lock, and they could be so focused on that vehicle that they can lose, reference to what else is happening around them, and that a lot comes from being tired after driving at these high rates of speed, driving very technically through these intersections. It's very stressful because they are, like, the suspect is putting the public in danger, and the police officer's first priority is keeping the public safe. So what we're going to see when those officers need that break is other units take over as primary in the pursuit, letting that fresh officer take over and stick with the suspect so that that other officer can take a break almost. And we also see that with, in general, agencies taking over the pursuit. We talk about the CHP often and how they have different offices throughout the Southland. And one of the tactics in letting those different offices take over pursuits when they enter their zones is allowing those fresh officers to take over the pursuit that's in their area. You saw the suspect there just throwing some stuff out of the vehicle as trying to peek through that driver window a few moments ago, and it seemed like the suspect was fiddling around a lot in their lap, and that might explain the lower speeds as they're not fully focused on driving right now. So and this isn't the first time we've seen stuff come out that driver window. We heard on the freeway even that the suspect was throwing items out the window as well. But multiple agencies, multiple officers here behind this vehicle now on Holt, coming up on Paloma here in the Pomona area, going now to the east and now jumping into a shopping center. And this can be a little tricky for those officers as well as for the suspect. It makes it a lot easier for those officers to sort of box the suspect in. But we'll see what happens here coming up on that store, making that tight turn, hitting that truck there. That's the first time we've seen an accident, but that truck there just trying to stop, get out of the way, and now it is a victim of this pursuit. And we see a sheriff's department there, just officers and deputies everywhere as this pursuit now weaves its way through that parking lot, continuing back now to the east on Holt from Coswell, and now back up to those high rates of speed. So as soon as we get comfortable with high rates of speed, we go low speed, and then vice versa. Now we went from low speed to high speed, throwing stuff still out that driver window at those officers. And all those things, for the most part, will be cataloged and picked up by those officers and deputies as this pursuit goes on. And that's one of the great things about having so many units behind this pursuit, is there's no shortage of deputies to stop and pick up those now pieces of evidence. But a large crowd gathering here on Lorraine, just south of Holt, into an alleyway. You see people in their backyards, over their fences, watching this pursuit as well. Very high rates of speed, very dangerous situations, as this is not what you're expecting in an alleyway behind your home. Back out here to Reservoir Street going to the south, and this pursuit just continues on. Pomona Police Department in right behind, the suspect now speeding up once again into these neighborhoods, and what the police, the sheriffs might decide to do if they can notice a pattern is distribute or deploy spike strips to try to pop those tires on this truck to try to bring it to an end, because it doesn't seem like the truck is giving up as much as we thought it might be on its own. The suspect's still maintaining a lot of control, but once the vehicle loses those tires, it becomes a lot harder on that engine, a lot more taxing on the engine, and a lot harder to maneuver for that suspect, and could bring this pursuit to a faster end. But right now, with these high rates of speed and erratic driving into neighborhoods, wow, onto the sidewalk here, people in the street there, very dangerous situation here. Now we're back into that shopping center we saw earlier, and it looks like we just did a big circle. We'll see what happens here. You saw the sheriff's air unit go through the shot. They are overhead calling this pursuit for those officers on the ground. CHP still overhead calling it as well. But this is just getting more and more dangerous by the second, Micah, as we go near the 7 o'clock hour mark now through this parking lot here at Coswell and Holt. Okay. Wow, into that semi there. Airbags deployed. Sorry about that, Micah. But this was going to be the end of the pursuit here. Not seeing that semi there, but we're going to hold just a little bit wider of a shot. You can see the canine officer there with that canine out and ready. What they have to worry about now is the condition of those suspects. You see the truck just deciding to drive off, getting out of the area. A good move on that semi-truck driver, because they are in the line of fire right now. They're also acting as almost a barrier from the vehicle moving as well, but it doesn't look like it's going to be doing much with those airbags deployed. But the police officers now moving their vehicle up to box in this truck. You can see the front end of that truck, the engine smoking. The driver of the semi getting out of the vehicle, very smart move by them. But this a very dangerous pursuit coming to a generally good end, minus the damage to that pickup. But we'll have to see what happens now, because now this is turning into a standoff. They're going to be doing call-outs to the vehicle, especially a murder suspect. We don't know the details of that murder, if they're armed, if they believe they're armed, or what, but they're going to, it looks like they're backing away from the vehicle now. They're taking that position of advantage that the officers and deputies are going to do. They have a good viewpoint into the vehicle. You can see that the suspect vehicle is almost surrounded by sheriffs and Pomona Police Department. Just look at the response of police to this scene, probably about 15, 20 units at least. But time is now on those officers' side. They have the ability to take that position of advantage that we're seeing there, concealing behind those doors, and they will call out those suspects. You can see in that passenger window there, it looks like we have 2 arms out of that passenger window. So that's what they're going to ask for the suspects to do, is put their arms out the window and to make no sudden moves, and then at some point, if able, to get out of that vehicle in a very slow fashion. But with the damage to the truck, Micah, we're going to have to see what happens as this continues on. Are they able to get out of the vehicle? Are they injured to a point where they can't move? Are they trapped? We don't know. Or is the door stuck? So we'll just have to continue to watch this pursuit as it ends. But I'm just going to pull out to a little bit wider of a shot. This is San Antonio and the 400 block of San Antonio here, right at Holt. We've been here for on this street for a while now, just making its way through that neighborhood. But you can see that passenger there in the red sleeves, arms out. It looks like they're conferring with the officers in some sense with those arms moving, but a large amount of damage to that truck, a large amount of damage to that semi, but a good end to this pursuit now that went on nearly 2 hours. You can see Sheriff's Department as well as the Police Department here on scene trying to get these suspects to come out of the vehicle peacefully so they can take them into custody. It looks like just there, if we look over the roof of the vehicle, we saw the hands of the driver coming out of that truck as well. So it does look like they are attempting to comply in some sense. You can see the passenger, even their head out from below the airbag there. So those driver and passenger are communicating with the deputies at this time, and it looks like this is we hope that they do comply and they come out peacefully and surrender themselves. But you just see how many officers are here for this, and they are tactically prepared to approach the vehicle if they deem that necessary. But right now, a watch commander or a supervisor on scene is going to start making a plan to decide the best way to get these suspects out of the vehicle. You see that driver door opening, so luckily that door can open, and hopefully we see that driver come out peacefully and then comply with the officer's requests to end this pursuit and be taken into custody. But that's the latest over Pomona, Micah. I'm going to send it back down to you in the studio. Okay. Copy. That's right. This is the end that we were looking for. So many other dangerous situations, so many other lives put in danger by the suspect of this pursuit went on at upwards of 90 miles an hour on surface streets, just weaving its way through different residential areas and commercial areas. And it looks like the suspect now making a fast approach towards those officers. Holding their tasers, the less than lethals. Trained on that suspect now and making that approach to take that suspect into custody. It looks like that suspect may have some issue walking. So that's why they were crawling, but now the deputies have taken that driver into custody, and now it's a question of this passenger as well. You can see their arms out of the passenger side of this truck. The suspects wanted for possible murder out of Riverside County. Riverside County holding the primary agency spot in this pursuit for nearly 2 hours, letting up for Pomona PD to assist towards the end in their territory. And we saw this successful termination of the pursuit. What better way, like you said, Micah and Cher, to end a pursuit in a safe manner in a crash than into a semi, as that driver of the semi was able to move that vehicle forward to a more safe spot that would box in that vehicle, and then walk away from that truck over to safety of some other deputies. In all cases of pursuit crashes that we see, Micah and Cher, this one is definitely one that it was on the safer side, and now we are just in the waiting game of seeing that passenger open their door now and try to make their way out of the vehicle. Looks like it's a little bit tough for them as well, but that door is open. But just look at the damage to the front of that truck there. Just that engine compartment smashed in, those airbags deployed. So that takes a lot of a toll on a individual. If you've ever been in a crash, you know that even the smallest crashes can hurt. So something like this into a semi definitely could cause some pain. But it looks like this passenger, we have at least 1 foot outside of the vehicle right now, and we'll have to see what happens. Both feet out, passenger standing up, luckily able to walk. Pull out to a little bit wider shot. Don't want to show anything that's not rated for air, but the suspect pulling up their pants now facing the officers, and they're going to ask that suspect to face away and walk back slowly to those deputies. Moving a little fast right now, but that may be out of request from the deputies now. And still keep their back to those deputies. Move over to the right, as you see there, and then they're going to make their way back to those deputies, and that arrest team will take this passenger into custody here on San Antonio Avenue here in Pomona. But nearly a 2-hour-long pursuit, very high rates of speed, weaving its way through the Southland, both on freeways and definitely on surface streets here in Pomona, Laverne, and Claremont, coming to an end here very peacefully and without major injury for the most part, other than possibly that suspect was unable to walk when they got out. But now we're just going to wait and see for them to clear the vehicle. They're going to talk to those suspects, see if there's anyone possibly else in the vehicle, and then we'll see an approach team approach that vehicle and clear that vehicle of any other possible harmful things or people that may be in it. But a very successful into a pursuit here in Pomona. I'm going to send it down to you, Mike and Cher. Okay. Thanks, Craig.